Hi, Shabbat Shalom. I'm really, truly honored that my father, Rabbi Landi, the original, asked me to deliver tonight's sermon, and I feel really, really blessed to stand amongst you. I've known many of you for many, many years, so it's great to reconnect year after year, and first time being in this sanctuary. It's beautiful and profound. So for 3,500 years, the Jewish people have observed Passover. The rudiments of the Passover Seder were given to the people of Israel before the 10th plague. They were required to rejoice in freedom before even having reached freedom. And I ask, as a modern Jew, is this ritual still necessary? Is this ritual of retelling and reliving the story of servitude to freedom still relevant? And I believe that it is, and I would like to share with you that story. Every Saturday night, for weeks now, hundreds of thousands of Israelis, including myself, have taken to the streets protesting against the encroachment of tyrannical themes that have been bubbling up under the political surface of the nation. Israelis have taken to the streets to stand up for democratic values and to ensure that Israel, a Jewish state, is not corrupted by theocratic aspirations. The streets roar with chants of the ancient Hebrew, it's actually Greek, word demokratia, but said with an Israeli accent, which translates to democracy. The feeling in the air teeters between that of a street party and the precipice of a revolution, both life-altering and powerful in their own right. And last weekend, several days before my family and I made our way to Kansas City so that we could sit down to retell the story of the Exodus from Egypt at the Passover Seder of our own, I stood amongst a sea of my people and with tears in my eyes as I realized how poignant that the people of Israel and the people in Israel in every generation seek freedom and pursue that endeavor. While I've become a very active protester, both on a personal and professional level, it took me many weeks to join the efforts, realizing that I cannot sit on the sidelines of this moment in time. I realized that I cannot preach the values of freedom when I myself don't take part in making that pursuit a reality. I realized that I cannot be a parent with integrity if I don't practice what I preach. And while I'm not sure that my standing in the streets with an Israeli flag will move the meter or save my country from imminent implosion, I know that if I am not there and not speaking up, I will be a partner in its decline. And if I'm not there, I fear that I could feel enslaved in my own country to values that I did not want or sign up for. I know that these feelings are not unique to the political situation in Israel. I know that these sentiments are not foreign to this congregation here tonight, living in this city. And after finally making it to Kansas City with 3 kids, 1 missed flight, and what ended up being a 27-hour journey, felt like 40 years, a redemptive miracle in itself, and still being jazzed up from the protest nights before, the Pesach Seder suddenly had a deeper meaning for me. In the retelling of our story during this yearly ritual, we are to see ourselves as if we exited from Egypt. We are to identify our own pain and adversity, whether it be on a national level, personal, or of the very human existence, and seek redemption and freedom in whatever way possible. Our tradition understands the fragility and the easy imbalance that can lead from the fall of freedom to tyranny in less than a generation. And we know that this is not a theoretical takeaway. We experience it every generation, every single generation. We think that we're smarter, but we're not. Our tradition understands that working towards freedom is a tedious effort and that complacency can be a slippery slope to 430 years of Egyptian slavery. And standing with hundreds of thousands of others was not just a rush, but also an imperative and in line with this very holiday. At the Seder, we attempt to create an ethos in which our children learn to question, learn to see themselves in the narrative of our people, and learn that freedom is never a value to be taken for granted. Zoe, I hope that you got that. We must constantly be in question with society, with ourselves, and with one another to ensure that we all remain in that pursuit. And at our family Seder, we have a tradition of passing out marshmallows to anyone who asks a question. This lighthearted practice, which may be responsible for my children's developing cavities, has a deeper meaning. We, as a people, must teach the next generation that the only way to escape servitude is to make sure that we understand, to make sure that we are knowledgeable, and to make sure that we have the ability to see the idiosyncrasies in the world. In other words, The marshmallows at our Seder are an attempt to teach one another that every question, every voice is one of value. Never be afraid to speak up or to ask a question. We cannot assume that we know how to stand up for freedom. We cannot assume that we know how to question the status quo. These skills must be cultivated, and our Seder is an opportunity to practice and to cultivate those skills. In 1997, at a Passover Seder in Washington, D.C., organized by Rabbi David Saperstein of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, in which the Dalai Lama attended. It was called the Passover Seder Freedom Celebration. In an article by former U.S. Ambassador Carl Gershman, he recalls that Seder and writes, "The Dalai Lama was especially interested in the importance that the celebration attached to involving the children at the Seder table and telling the story of liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt and answering their questions about it. He saw this ceremony as part of a comprehensive educational process of passing Judaism and the history and identity of the Jewish people on from one generation to the next. And he said if Tibetans would copy some of the Jewish determination and the techniques that they have used to keep their identity, their religious faith, and their traditions under difficult circumstances, just like the Jewish people have. And the Dalai Lama is right, as he often is, that we must be proud of our successes in being a people who knows how to pass on our ethical tradition. And I know as a parent and as a rabbi and as an Israeli that my children have received and will continue to receive the message that they are part of a bigger story. They will learn and relearn that they are part of an ethical tradition that doesn't just retell a story, but internalizes it, reflects on it, and ensures that we do not repeat history, that we will not be slaves, that we will pursue freedom at all costs. And when I return to Israel in about a week and a half, hopefully not 27 hours to go back, I will go back to join the protest efforts, requiring myself not just to think about how we were slaves in Egypt, but also how we can redeem ourselves. Because freedom is a fleeting value, and it is up to us to find our own unique ways of making that value tangible and grounded in each and every one of our lives. May we see ourselves as redeemed slaves, and may we work towards bringing redemption to one another in small ways and in large ways each and every day of our lives. Shabbat Shalom.